I'm Jim Kircher. You see a lot of stories about Alzheimer's disease. You see the term early promise, about experimental treatments, and you hear about disappointing results. But the work continues on this devastating disease. A couple of dozen drugs are being tested, more are being developed. Some people believe an effective drug might be available by 2025, but nobody really knows. Still, this is a worldwide effort, and one of the important centers for Alzheimer's research in the world is here in St. Louis at Washington University. Some of the work has been featured in the national documentary, Every Minute Counts. This next story, though, is not about a possible treatment. It's about the kind of work that's being done behind the scenes to understand the complex factors at work and to actually see memory being destroyed in the human brain. This scanner at Washington University is state-of-the-art, complex technology. But the medical advance we're talking about isn't in all the electronics. It's in a vial.
3, 2, 1, injecting.
They're using a newly concocted chemical agent that enables this PET scanner to show something Alzheimer's researchers are able to see for the first time in a living patient. It's something called tau protein. And a buildup in certain areas of the brain is a key indicator that the disease is entering its most devastating phase. The newly developed chemical agent circulates through the body, but it sticks to the clumps of tau protein in the brain. And when there's a scan,
it lights up. And if it binds to those areas, it tells us that tau is now in the brain. So we can look at an individual. We don't have to have an autopsy. We don't have to have anything. We can look in life and start to now see tau in the brain, which is very, very, very interesting, very, very cool.
Dr. Bo Ansis is a WashU neurologist working with Alzheimer's patients and on research. And let's get this straight. This advancement in tau detection, it's not a cure, not a treatment. It's a tool that can be used for diagnosis and for testing the effects of new drugs. This woman's part of a study of people with a genetic family history of early onset Alzheimer's. Experimental drugs are targeting the damaging proteins. One of them is amyloid beta. It starts collecting in the brain maybe 15 years before people show signs of Alzheimer's like memory loss. The tau protein, that shows up later.
Tau has been a little bit of the ugly duckling almost in the kind of situation. There's been a lot of work that's looked at amyloid, and when you look at the literature, there's always this amyloid hypothesis, amyloid early changes, and kind of tau was left to the side. Yes, tau is there, but it's all amyloid. And more recently, we're starting to see is that it's probably not just amyloid, it's amyloid and tau. So what we're now able to do only in the last year or so is now image these areas of the brain.
And it's not just that the tau is present, but where it's present.
It's not just the presence, it's the location. And it's the combination of where this tau is plus where this amyloid is that pushes the individual to Alzheimer's disease.
Dr. Ansis wanted to show me more than just slides of brain scans. He wanted to show me a piece of history on the WashU Medical Campus that has made this new era of Alzheimer's research possible.
So this is the original PET scanner, and you can see it says imaging of the body's process. And
on display is one of the very first modern circular PET scanners. It goes back to the 1970s and started to give us a really good map of the brain. And while I'm sure it's been improved over time, it's basically the same technology. You're just finding better ways to use it.
Better agents, better chemicals to look at it, to look for now, specifically for Alzheimer's disease or for something like that.
So now there's a new chemical agent that marks the tau protein in the brain. But if it's there, the symptoms of Alzheimer's are likely already to be kicking in, and the scan only confirms the diagnosis. It's important that they can now hit the target, but not with anything that does more than light it up. If I come in and you can now detect this, unless you're putting me in a trial, what good does it do me to know that?
It
Doc, what can you do for me?
Because I think we can start to think about your individualized symptoms and how we can approach them for you and not for somebody else.
Not all Alzheimer's are the same.
No, if you follow me in clinic, you'll see the end stage, yes. The stages of how they get there they go different ways. No two snowflakes are the same. No two people, how they kind of progress and where they get to the final stages, how they do that are different. So when you walk into the clinic, one person may say, I have more planning. I can't go around, I can't navigate around as well. A next person may say, I have more memory problems in doing this. Another person may say, I have more executive. I can't plan 3 things in advance. I can't remember to take this kind of medication. So they all may have Alzheimer's disease, but they have different flavors, different variants of it. And if I know that, then I can say, here's something for you. Here's these kinds of therapies. This would work better for you. This would work better for you. No, this would work better for you.
There are plenty of drugs and treatments being tried and tested. A lot of the work is being done at WashU. It's one of the few places experimenting with the tau scanning. But still, there's no cure for Alzheimer's disease, no effective treatment, no prevention. What there is greater understanding of the causes and better tools.
Huge advances. And in the imaging side, I'd say in the last 5 to 7 years, there's been just an explosion. So if you looked at amyloid imaging 6 years ago, you may have found 5, 10 papers. Now there are thousands of papers. If you looked at tau imaging, in the last 2 years, there were no papers. In the last now year and a half, there must have been over 30, 40 papers. So it is just exponentially increasing for both of these kinds of agents. And now that we have that ability, it's changing the landscape of how we look at Alzheimer's disease.